Yeah, buddy, what is up? Welcome to Duct Tape Dynasty. F1 is back, baby. I am the Duct Tape Dude.
I'm the dude.
And man, I tell you what, I'm excited. Got a special show for you guys tonight. Sorry we're a little bit late, but oh my gosh, man. We've got special guests. They're busy people. And look, we just got on the phone. I met these guys about 3.5 minutes ago. About the time we started the countdown is when I met these guys. So this is going to be a live meet and greet, and you guys are going to meet them with me. I am super honored to have these guys. But before we get started, let me ask you to do one thing. Minimize that screen. Hit that subscribe button. Hit the like button if you're already a subscriber. Let us know that you like what we got going on. I hope you like tonight's show because I want to do more of it. I am a huge F1 fan. And I found these guys recently. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Jeremiah and Thomas from the Turn One podcast. How are you, gentlemen? Welcome.
We're doing great. Thanks for having us on. I mean, this is crazy exciting. We've never done live anything before. We've always been too scared. So you're bringing us into the live world by force a little bit, which we're fine with. But I'll start off by saying congrats on the work on your channel that you've done. You've grown it to 270 plus subscribers. We know how hard that is. So wishing you the best of luck going forward.
Oh gosh, thanks, man. Thanks. I appreciate it. Jeremiah, how about you? How are you doing, sir?
Doing pretty good, man. Like Thomas said, we're breaking down walls today, and that's fine with us. I mean, typically, while it's pre-recorded, we usually do one take anyway, so it's nothing new. It's just now we've got people staring at us while we make the mistakes.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. The live format for me just works better. Number one, because then I don't have to go back and do all the editing, because I would be a perfectionist, dude. I would nitpick the holy crap out of it and never post anything. And so by doing it live, I mean, it's out there. Like whatever we say is out there. So please don't get me kicked off YouTube. I didn't say that in the pre-show brief, but that's all I ask. But man, I am so excited you guys are here. I found you guys recently when y'all were, you went to COTA this past year. Now COTA, for those who don't know, is Circuit of the Americas. It is, well, I mean, the American Grand Prix of F1. It is, our granddaddy. Granted, we've got Vegas and all that, and Miami's pretty great too. But the one that's got the name is COTA. It's Circuit of the Americas. These guys actually went to the race this last year. And so I want to do an intro and talk about some other stuff first so we can meet you and at least get to know who you are before we get into how that went and how you I just want to hear all about it. Okay. So let's get into it. Before we get started, like I said, I just met these guys 3.5 minutes ago, probably 5 minutes ago now. I've been watching your stuff. I love your guys' stuff. It's awesome. But before we get started, we've got to get to know each other. So let's do what I'm calling, and this is geeky, but whatever. I love it. Let's do a formation lap, okay? Let's do a little warm-up. We'll do some warm-up questions, figure out what kind of people we are, and if we can indeed carry on with this show before. Anyway, let's get to it. So my first question, and we're just going to go Thomas and Jeremiah because that's the way you guys are ordered on the phone. Thomas has got the upper half of the screen, Jeremiah the bottom half. If you figure out, or if you forget who they are, I put their names right down there. So yeah, hopefully I match the right pictures. I'm just kidding. All right, boys. First question: favorite superhero. Thomas, go.
Okay, give me Batman.
Yes.
But I'm going to talk movies real quick. Christian Bale in before. Ben Affleck in after has been a disaster for the Batman movies. So Batman, but specific Batmans.
I agree. I love that pick. I'm not going to give you mine yet, but there you go. There's some foreshadowing. How about you, Jeremiah? What's your favorite superhero?
I'm going to have to go with the Flash. Something
Ooh.
about being able to run super speed has always just baffled me. I always thought it was super cool. Definitely my pick.
Okay, so you're definitely the right guy to be an F1 podcaster then. I mean, I have never had anybody say the Flash. That's great. I love it because that would be awesome. Of course, flying would be pretty cool too. Batman doesn't fly, but he falls with style. I mean, you know, he's kind of the Buzz Lightyear. What, you get it, whatever. I'm a Batman fan. I love the Batman stuff. Yeah, I actually, believe it or not, once upon a time, okay, story time from me. I met Batman once without knowing that I met Batman. And I'm talking the original, like, Michael Keaton Batman. Well, the original for our ish generations. And I didn't even know it because, okay, so I was in the military, and my first job was a pilot. And at the time, what they did is they would send you to a local airport and you would get your pilot's license. And that would weed out a whole bunch of people. Like, a bunch of people couldn't cut it. And so, you know, they got tossed out of the program before they started flying the expensive stuff. Anyway, so I'm flying these little Cessna planes, whatever. One day I'm coming into work. I got paid to fly planes. It was awesome. And there's people drinking in the parking lot. And I'm like, what is going, it's 9 a.m. I'm like, why are there people? This is not the airport terminal. Okay. This is out in the, it's called the FBO. So it's the private planes and all that stuff. And I'm like, there's never alcohol out here. What is going on? Anyway, there's dogs in the parking lot as well. So I go up to this dog and start petting it, saying hey to it, talking to it. I'm talking to this guy. I'm sorry I drug this story on forever already. Part of the live show thing. I'm talking to this guy while I'm patting his dog. Then I go into the FBO and everybody is plastered against the window as I'm coming in. And I'm like, am I Tom Cruise? Like, do I look that cool in the flight suit? Like, what's going on? And one of the people is my instructor. And so I go in and I go, what is going on? He goes, dude, do you know who that was? I'm like, who? He goes, that's Batman. And I turn around and it was freaking Michael Keaton. I was carrying on a conversation with him. I never even looked up at him. Not once. So I met Batman without meeting Batman. That's my claim to fame. So I have to love Batman now by default. So,
and he was one of the good ones. Like I said, everything Christian Bale and before, good. Since then, no.
Yeah. We'll have to have another show another time to talk deeper into the movies. Let's go for it. Let's have a favorite movie then. We'll kind of go quick with this one. Favorite movie, Thomas?
The movie that I think I quote the most is The Other Guys. I feel it's underrated as a comedy. It's Will Ferrell, Mark Wahlberg greatness.
Okay. I like it. How about Jeremiah? What are you going for?
Mine's a little bit darker, not so much on the humor side. My favorite's got to be The Zodiac. It's young Robert Downey Jr., you know, a crime that never got caught, murder never got solved, still up in the air even today. The movie is fantastic.
Okay. Wow. Now you guys those are some non-standard ones. You know, we typically hear I've got in the chat, I've got the Superman, you know, that's probably one of the movies that anyway. I am personally, and I don't know if you guys have ever seen this. Like I said earlier, I've got 20 years on you, I think. I'm a big fan of The Big Lebowski. So I quote that movie quite a bit. Really weird movie, but I hated it the first time I watched it, and now I love it. So anyway, that's that. So let's go on to our subject of the day, favorite F1 team, Thomas.
Okay. I've been accused of being a bandwagon fan, but my favorite F1 team is Red Bull. There's a story into it, which I'm sure we'll get into throughout this podcast. It has Drive to Survive ties in it. I like the story. But my favorite underdog is Williams. I like the family aspect of the Williams team. I actively want Williams to do good every season, and they just consistently don't. But
that's true.
I want Red Bull to win every race. I can't lie.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, you know, Red Bull, even though it's not an American thing, is so Americana. You know, like all the Red Bull extreme stuff we're crazy about it. We love it all, and so yeah, I think we're naturally drawn to that Red Bull team by that alone, and then of course Drive to Survive. Yeah. How about Jeremiah? Where are we going?
All right, here's my problem. And
Oh
hear me
no.
out. I
Oh
can't
no.
have one. I can't have one. For one, the Haas boys will always have my heart. They just will, even though they're terrible. The Haas team will always have my heart. But if I had to go with a favorite, it's gotta be Mercedes.
Ooh.
I love the color palette. I love the whole mantra behind it. I love Toto Wolff and how he commands the team. Definitely Mercedes.
Okay, I like it. I love Toto Wolff as well. I mean, in what Netflix does, if that is indeed him to a T, he's awesome. I mean, Toto is just he is gold for TV, man. That's great. Those are great teams. I am, I'd say for a team, I'm probably a Red Bull guy. And I don't know. I'm one of these guys that's just such a fan of the sport. Like, that it's just hard to pick one. But yeah, give me Red Bull. My son is a big McLaren guy. His name is Landon, so Lando. A lot of people call him Lando by default. And so Lando Norris is his favorite driver. So it's hard not to cheer for them. Carlos Sainz happens to be my favorite driver. So it's hard not to be like, okay, Ferrari was my favorite team, and now it's Williams. But
That's a tough switch.
Yeah, Red Bull. I'm gonna sell out and go Red Bull. So I gave away my favorite driver. It's Carlos. How about Thomas? What about you?
Bandwagon. It's Max Verstappen, and I liked him before he was winning championships. That's the problem with all of this. But nobody will ever believe you that you like somebody before he won championships. The kid, he came into the sport as like the young gunslinger. He didn't care what anybody thought about him. He showed his stuff out on track. He took the spot over Daniel Ricciardo, who at that point was like a clear elite driver, and he just came in and took it from him. And he didn't care what people thought. Now he's gotten a little bit softer in recent years after winning championships, but early Max was very blunt, very to the point, and I just appreciated that because he backed it up on track. And then now, of course, he rattles off 4 championship wins, and everybody's like, "Oh, you're on the bandwagon." I'm like, "Yeah, I am. I'm on the bandwagon."
Well, yeah. I'll admit, I am a natural Max fan because we share the same birthday, for one. So it's hard not to be a Max fan. Then again, I'm a product of Drive to Survive, a little foreshadowing there as well for the next question, which obviously highlights Max. And I agree with everything you said there. The fact that he came in as this young gunslinger and he's matured so much. But Carlos, when I saw his work ethic, that's where I was like, all right, that's my guy. Nobody works harder than Carlos Sainz. So at least in my opinion. So Carlos is, but I've always got a soft spot for Max. I mean, we share a birthday. I'm just 20 years older than him. So Jeremiah, how about you?
First of all, I absolutely love Carlos Sainz. He's not my number one, but he's a solid number 2. Speaking of bandwagon, my number 1 always is going to be Lewis Hamilton.
Oh, okay.
He's my guy. I love his whole attitude. I love his approach, his driving style. It's not as aggressive. It's more slick and calculated. I love it. But he's not who I'm most excited to see this year, despite the fact that he just moved to Ferrari. Who I'm most excited to see and watch this year is Kimi Antonelli, the number 2 Mercedes driver coming in this year.
Okay. Guys, I'm already feeling it. We're going to have to do like 5 more shows together. There's so many things that as we're rattling off stuff, I'm like, oh, we could do a show about that. Like when you said the color palette of like Mercedes, I'm like, oh, dude, I love the livery. What do you call it? When they show it. The reveals. There we go. Reveals. The livery reveals for the year. I'm just a huge fan of it. Anyway, okay. Let's go to how we got into F1. I'm a solid product of Drive to Survive. Flat out. That's it. I did as a kid watch it, but at the time I didn't know the difference between like that and IndyCar. I thought it was the same thing. So I've always liked fast cars. I grew up in Montana, of all places. And so cars like F1 cars were not around there. It was a lot of dirt track stuff, but I've always liked fast cars. So I have no idea why I even started this sentence. So I'm just going to move on. Anyway, Drive to Survive. I'm just a solid product of that. Thomas, Jeremiah, are you guys both Drive to Survive products as well?
Yeah, I am, but Jeremiah's got a little bit different of a story. So I'll let Jeremiah tell his story. I definitely Drive to Survive for me. I've never been big on really racing. I had a brief phase in the mid 2000s where I got into NASCAR because of the video games. Like NASCAR 2006 Total Team Control. I wore that game out on Xbox. That thing was awesome, and I watched it. But then after that, I kind of fell off. But when they announced Drive to Survive, I've always loved shows that show you the behind the scenes of
Yes.
something. I don't care what it is. I just want to see the behind the scenes of it. And it got me hooked. And I know a lot of people say, oh, Drive to Survive isn't the true story of F1. It doesn't show the drivers. It doesn't show like the real, it's all drama based. That's fine. Take it at what it is and then go watch the actual races and
Yep.
learn about things on your own. But as a way to get people hooked into a sport, especially the American market, that was the best tool F1 could have
Oh
come
my
up with
gosh. Yeah.
Netflix.
I mean, that was huge. Number one, F1's production value. I'm talking Sky Sports or Liberty Media, whoever owns the rights to the broadcasting of F1 just does a phenomenal job to begin with. And then whoever made that decision to let Netflix come in, I agree, because I'm a huge fan as well of the behind the scenes. I'm an NFL guy. My main show, as if you guys have even looked at my channel, is mainly NFL based. And I love all the, hard knocks and all that kind of stuff behind the scenes, anything behind the scenes where you get to see these famous people being real,
If you just watch a race, it would be very confusing because you're wondering why are these teams fighting to get 10th place? But if you
Yep.
watch Drive to Survive, you understand that 1 point in a race can mean the difference in millions of dollars.
Millions upon millions. There's so
And
much money in this
that,
sport.
that's what got us. If you just watch the race and Max runs away with it every week like he did 2 seasons ago, you'd be bored out of your mind.
Yeah. I mean, 2023. Yeah, that was. Anyway. All right, Jeremiah, it's time. Tell us your story of how you got into F1.
I've always been a car guy. I've gone to car shows with my brother since I was super young. I've watched NASCAR since I was a young boy with my dad. I kind of got off of it, I would say, I don't know, about 8 years ago and didn't really watch too much of it. But I got into Formula One because I love racing. And so I love racing video games. None of my friends like racing video games. So Thomas approaches me and said, dude, you got to get the F1 game. And I was like, oh, you want to play a racing game? I'm in. Downloaded the game, thought it was awesome, thought it was really cool, and I was like, okay, I'm going to watch a couple races. Started watching the races, had no idea what was going on, so I went to Drive to Survive and started watching that and started learning the history. Then I did my own explorations on YouTube to learn about the backstory of all the drivers, all the teams, and everything else. But I actually got my start from the video game.
Okay. Okay. Did you go in your pursuit of more information? Did you go to the history? I mean, did you go back and watch Senna type stuff?
Oh, yeah.
All that? Okay. Okay.
I went back and watched Senna, went back and watched teams like Minardi, teams like, I mean, I'm old F1 videos. I went back and watched complete races from back in the day, got to learn the drivers, the champions, the history of the teams and how they evolved to the teams that they are now. I mean, I went on this binge where I was insanely hooked for a while there. Still am, honestly.
Sorry, I'm trying to fix something over here, so sorry I'm not looking at you. Okay, sorry. Okay, there we go. I fixed it. Whatever. Awkward transition. Let me look at some of the comments here, and we have from Mountains of Montana. How big did F1 get as a sport just based on the Netflix? Do you think? I mean, for Americans, I think Drive to Survive is what brought America into it. I mean, yes, we apparently had races here, but before Drive to Survive, I had no clue.
I think the only reason that we now have Miami and Vegas is because of Drive to Survive.
Absolutely.
Formula One, not to say it was barely supporting a U.S. race. Austin was always very big. You'd have 300,000 plus on a COTA weekend before Drive to Survive. But there's no way America would have sold out 3 races, and now they're easily able to do that, and it's got to be Drive to Survive.
Yeah, agree. Any further thoughts on that, Jeremiah?
Yeah, the European fan base gives us a lot of flack for that because we're oh, you didn't get into it until Drive to Survive on Netflix. But the fact of the matter is it's been out for what is it, 6 seasons now,
Yep.
7 seasons. And so
Seven.
even if you did join as a Drive to Survive fan in season one, you've now been watching Formula One for 5, 6 years. You've developed your own interests. You've learned the things that are dramatized on the show. You've learned the history of the teams. You are considered a fan. I hate this whole mantra of, oh, you're a DTS fan. That's the only reason you're into the sport. I don't get it.
You know,
Can you tell we've gotten a lot of comments about this?
yeah, apparently. Recently, one of my early on podcasts that it was about F1. I had a couple guys from the UK on. Terry, who is Coffee Corner Terry, Motorsports, if you see his stuff on TikTok, and then F1 Matt, who was kind of his partner in crime. They came on and we did a show together, and they were actually like, "Hey, I love it. You know, the more fans, the better. Bring it on. I love that." Now, maybe they were just saying that because I was American on the other side of the phone, but no, they're pretty genuine guys, and so it's mixed reviews. But of course, the comment section, although the live comment section tends to be a little nicer, but comments can, everybody's always going to put their brutal stuff out there, right? So. All right, let's move on then. We were talking about, how it's grown in America, and it was at COTA the whole time. And then, of course, we talked about Miami and Vegas being added, but you guys went to COTA this last year. First of all, I want to ask, are you guys, and of course, I'm not asking city or anything, but what state are you guys in?
So we're both in Texas.
Okay, so I'm up in Oklahoma. So COTA is where I would go if I ever went to an F1 race. I've never been to one. I have no idea if I'll ever get to one. And yeah, anyway, now I see why something that I fixed. Sorry, I didn't. This is a live show, and so there we go. Sorry, had to fix the screen there. I'm sorry, guys. Shoot, tell me about COTA, man. How awesome was it? Jeez, I want to know everything about it. We got to keep it moving so we get to the actual content of the show. I guess this is the content of the show, but I guess tell me all about it. What was it like to get to your first F1 race? Was it a pain in the butt with the crowd? I want to hear all about it. Just give us anything you want to tell us right off the bat. We'll keep it going, Thomas and Jeremiah. Thomas, your floor. Go for it.
So not difficult to get to. The Austin is convenient for us, a couple hours away. And so, kind of like you up in Oklahoma, that's the race that we always would have gone to. We didn't have to go to Miami or Vegas. We got there we did the 3-day GA pass, which highly recommend. GA is not bad at all. I mean, buying a seat is crazy expensive. The GA pass was like $400 or something for the whole weekend, so not bad. And we got there a little bit late, and they were doing like a Porsche series and all that. And we just knew on day one, if day one had that many people, day two and day three, we're going to have way more people. But it's an incredible experience. And I think I speak for both of us when I say we will try to go back every single year now.
I've got to, before I die, get to an F1 race at some point, man, I watched all your guys' videos on it, and it looks awesome. It looked awesome.
And it's kind of out in a rural area away from Austin. We always say Austin, but it's not really near Austin. It's a good 20 miles or so outside of Austin. And the highway was backed up with cars pulling in. There's really only one road in and out. You see people walking for miles. We got kind of lucky with our parking situation, I think. There were other people that were walking a lot further than we had to walk.
Okay.
But Jeremiah can speak to taking in the experience, because I think he was like a little kid in a candy store at that place.
All right. And here's my additional question that I want Jeremiah to answer is, if I ever was to go to COTA, where do I need to plant my chair when I rush the gate on day 3, when the race is going to happen? But tell me about COTA, but I do want to hear, where's the best seat in the house of the GA section? Because you guys walked the whole track and everything, right? Yeah.
So the first thing you're going to experience when you drive up to this thing is just how massive the turn one, the straight to going up to turn one actually is. That hill is insane, and no broadcast does it justice. So that's first and foremost. Second of all, if you're going to go to COTA specifically, but probably any F1 race, wear a good type of shoes because you are going to be walking, and it is a lot of walking. Completely worth it. I mean, it was hard for us to find a spot to just kind of sit, and we didn't want to stay in one spot for the entire weekend. It was like, oh, what does this turn look like? What does it look like from this turn? What is it from this turn? And then, of course, there's all the vendors, all of the side shows that are going on around the outskirts of the track. And then, of course, you don't even want to walk too much because you're going to miss the Porsche Carrera Cup. If you get lucky and you get to see an F2 or F3 event go on, then you're going to miss that. If you get up and walk away, I mean, they had they had Masters races where you got to see classic cars. I mean, I was a kid in a candy shop. Realistically, everywhere I looked, I was just, eyes wide open, taking it all in. I mean, the sounds, every car going around the track was so loud. The Formula One car specifically, as they zip past you insanely fast. It looks way faster in person than it does on broadcast, by the way.
Yeah.
But to answer your question.
Okay. Sorry.
No, you're good. To answer your question, where you want to set up, hear me out. Right before the S's, where we sat for the actual race around turn 2, turn 3 in that area, you missed turn 1, but you can see it on the screen. And as they come around turn 1 and down into turn 2, all of a sudden you can see them come from the left. And then you see them go through the S's lightning fast. It's unreal. And it's the coolest thing I've ever seen.
That's, it's, that was the one thing that I really hearkened in on when I was watching your guys' show. Is Thomas, you specifically were talking about, you watched the Porsches go through and you were so impressed with them on the S's, but then the F1 cars went through and it was just, it was another galaxy, right? I mean, it was just insane.
Yep. We got lucky, and I think we took in eventually pretty much every turn during some race or another. We didn't get to see every turn during the F1 events, of course, but Jeremiah's right before the S's, because you can look all the way down. The way they have the sight line set up, you can see the S's from every vantage point before it. And so it's like the best of both worlds. You're getting the reaction of the drivers coming out of turn 1, and you're getting the best part of COTA. Turn 11 is cool because you can see a lot of the track from turn 11. There's just not a lot of action at turn 11. There's not a lot of overtakes. There's not a lot of that, but you get to see the cars for like 30 seconds, which is really, really cool.
That's awesome. That's awesome. After the race, do they, you see on the podium, of course, all the fans are out there. Do they just open it up and everybody can go? Really?
Please let me answer this.
Yeah. Okay, go. It's all yours, brother.
So we're walking back, and it's after the race, and we're like, oh well, there's no openings to the track or anything. We're just head back to the car. We'll call it a day. What a great event! That was crazy. As we're walking back, I turned to my right, and I happened to notice this little area where a couple people were sneaking off. So I was like, hey man, we're only going to be here once a year. Let's go this way. So we followed them, and they went out onto the track. So it was actually turn 1. We got to walk across the grass, across the gravel, and then onto the actual pavement of turn 1. And you see all the fans sprinting down the hill, which is terrifying, by the way, sprinting down the hill towards the podium celebration. We already decided there's no way we're making that. But to be on the actual track itself, more specifically turn 1, our namesake,
yeah,
it was an unreal experience to be able to walk the track at the famous turn 1. We actually ended up walking down the hill too. It was after the ceremony and everything had already taken place, but it was spectacular.
That's awesome. Are there marbles and stuff out there? The rubber, you could pick them up and throw them in your pocket and keep them. Did you guys keep anything like that? Or see, I'm that geek. Like I would collect marbles.
I think, he kept a rock. I think Jeremiah's brother was with us and he kept some stuff. I was more amazed that we filmed a video right at the top of turn 1 and we were standing on the skid marks of where 2 drivers had gone off the track earlier. And I can't remember what 2 drivers it was, but like we watched it happen on the screens and then we were standing on the skid marks of that event.
Oh, that's so cool. Man, I've got to get there. I've got to. This past summer we went to LA, which, geez, what's going on there is terrible right now. But we went to LA, and one of the things we did is we took in a car museum. I never thought I would even see a Formula One car in person, let alone go to a track sometime. Now you're talking about 3-day pass being $400. I'm like, I might be able to pull that off.
It's
But
once a year. You gotta.
yeah, I mean, it just sounds awesome. But anyway, we walk into this museum, and right there, first car, right at the check-in desk, is Checo's car. And I'm like, what? Oh my Lord, there's an F1 car in here. And of course, I just sat there and just drooled over it the whole time. My wife's like, hey, do we want this pass or that pass? And yeah, whatever. I was just drooling over the car. And both my kids, I have 2 boys, are really into photography. And so they're taking all these cool, angles and whatnot of the cars. Then we go and we're looking at all these cars. I mean, they got all these low riders and everything. And then we go down to the basement, because when my wife asked me what pass do we want, and I went, she was like, well, I guess we'll just buy the full pass to everything. And so we went into what's called the vault, and literally Max's 2023 car is sitting right there. Let's see, who else is, I've got pictures of it. I think there were a couple Fernando cars in there. There was an older Checo car in there. Michael Schumacher's car was in there. Senna's car was in there. Wow. Yeah, like I was at the point, I had done something to my Achilles. So my wife was literally pushing me around in a wheelchair. And at that point, it was like they tucked in this little corner. It was all the F1 cars. I was like, just leave me here. You guys can go to the rest of the music. I'm good. Like, it was like,
did you get the impression that we did? The cars are smaller, I feel like, than we thought they were. We knew they weren't big, but they're pretty small.
Yeah. I mean, I know they talk about how big they are, but I think it's relative to how small they used to be. But yeah, they're not, I mean, my fat butt could never get in one of those things. I would seriously starve myself to the point of passing out just to lose enough weight to be able to sit in an F1 car if I could ever do it, So anyway, okay, we got to move on with the show. So let me get us moving here. The actual content for the show, I decided let's do top 3 kind of deal. And I said, let's do a top 3 moments of 2024 and then predictions of 2025. So that's what we're going to do today. And by the way, 2024, as we talk about Drive to Survive and all these things, Drive to Survive, and I'm sorry, guys, that I'm not getting to the comments. There's just so much that I want to talk about with F1 that, anyway. Oh, shoot, what was I even saying? We were moving on to this last season. So, we watch all the Drive to Survive, and it was, Mercedes wins the championship. Mercedes wins the championship. Mercedes wins the championship. And then Red Bull wins the champion. And since then, now, it's like, ooh, now I watch it live. And the years I've watched it live, Red Bull. And it's awesome. But this last year, man, holy cow. I wrote it down. Yeah, Max had 9 wins. Lando had 4. Charles had 3. Hamilton 2. Russell 2. Sainz 2. Piastri 2. I mean, it was an amazing year for F1, at least for my young experience of it. So I'm looking forward to our top 3 moments of 2024. I'm betting that we're going to probably have some repeats, but we're actually going to we'll reverse it now. And let's go with Jeremiah first. Tell us, you can just go 3, 2, 1, however you want to do it. I will work the little things to make the things come up when you talk about them, but you actually have a top 4, I believe. You kind of cheated a little bit. So let's start with number 4 and work our way up.
So just because of how amazing it was, I had to add 4 for it. Number 4, I had Max's Masterclass in the Rain. It was unreal to watch on TV, to see this man go from as far back as he was, make everybody look like a back marker, and just carve his way all the way up the pack and eventually win the race in a car that's supposedly deemed no longer the fastest car on track at this point, which I would agree with. But it showed exactly how far and above his driving skill is in comparison to everybody else. And these are the top 20 drivers in the world. So that alone is ridiculous.
I mean, yeah, the fact that he, does what he does, I agree. And that was that was quite a drive. I am so excited for this season of Drive to Survive because you know how awesome it's going to be with all these other teams winning and performances like that. I mean, that I can't wait to see what they do with that kind of stuff. So, okay, that I like it. I like it. You're already off to a good start. So, let's go number 3. And I'm sorry I stepped on you, but hey, it's a live show. Let's go for it.
Number 3, I'm giving it to Charles Leclerc, breaking the Monaco curse. The Monegasque that won at Monaco. He's had all of these years of these rough finishes at Monaco to finally get it done and then to jump into the harbor at the very end in celebration. Oh, I had goosebumps the entire time watching it.
That was phenomenal. I agree. And I mean, when you heard him yell on the radio afterwards, talking about, again, Sky Sports, Liberty Media, and their production of F1, how they integrate, like, even the team radio and stuff, to be able to hear him and just, I mean, you could hear him crying. That was an incredible moment. Like, and it's, I feel like kind of a dork, but since there's only 20 of these guys, you feel like you know them. I mean, it's like,
Yes.
Yep.
it's almost like, it was like, I was proud of him. You know, I don't know him. I've never seen the guy. So I agree with that. And I'm sorry I keep stepping on you, but maybe that's just the way this is going to go. How about number 2? What's number 2 for you?
So number 2, I was a champion of this guy for the longest time up until this final moment. And I'm not saying I'm not anymore, but I used to sing his praises for the longest until, even though he wasn't able to get it done, but he finally did. Lando Norris getting his first win, and it happened in the United States, in Miami. I thought that was awesome. And for the longest time, you know, he came in with the likes of Charles Leclerc, who was winning at Ferrari, George Russell, who was winning at Mercedes, and it was Lando, who was on the top team from the start at McLaren, and they could not give him a car to get the job done. They finally provide the car, and he shows everybody exactly what I've been saying all along. He is a race winner.
So I do have a question, though, and it came right off the beginning of your statement. You said used to be. What happened?
Yes. It's not that I don't. It's not that he's no longer up there for me. It's not like that. It's more of, I'm a fan of the story. I'm a fan of the whole sport in general, and more importantly, where the story is being told. The story of Lando Norris was that he was coming in second, coming in third, constantly over and over again, and it was all leading up to this grand moment where he finally got the job done and won a race. And then to win multiple throughout the year, it took away that's no longer the big story for me. Now the story is, can Max still pull it off even though Lando's hot on his tail or what? So I'm such a big fan of the sport that it's more of where is the story unfolding during the season.
Okay. Who did you say your driver was when I asked earlier?
Lewis Hamilton.
Okay, yeah, okay. There we go. So
which brings me to number 1.
Oh, how about that? Look at that for a transition. Go for it. It's all yours, sir.
Number 1 is Lewis's emotional win to finally get it done after 2 years being winless in Silverstone, his home Grand Prix, and he's driving around the track holding the British flag from outside of the car. He gets out, he's crying. It's all this emotion coming out of the headset. And when you look at Lewis of old, back in 2018, 2017, anytime that he would win a race, you would get the same reaction from him, and that was, well done, nice job at the factory, praise to the team, and yada yada. We'll go get it next time. And then This happens, and it's way more emotional than any of those
Oh my
wins. And you could
gosh. Yeah.
just tell that 2 years of just not having a single win had defeated this man. He was probably, I wouldn't doubt if he was doubting his own skills, whether he should felt like he should still be in the sport. And then to get a win and follow it up with another win later on, oh, it was incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah. I like it. And so that's quite a list. That's quite a list. I have a feeling we're going to end up probably seeing some more of those as we go through this, because those were some amazing moments. And by the way, for anybody that is in the comments that is not familiar with all this stuff, seriously, go give Drive to Survive a chance. Like, it is flippin' amazing. I mean, it tractor beam sucked me right in. All right. So, Thomas, let's go to you then, sir. What is number? Let's go 3, 2, 1 as well. We'll just go right up the list. How about number 3 for you?
Awesome. So I'm glad that you like Carlos Sainz, because number 3 for me is Carlos's farewell season with the Ferrari team. It's bittersweet.
Yes.
Carlos deserves a lot. He is an elite level driver. He is among the best in the world of the best in the world. So we always say these are the top 20 drivers, but clearly there's a talent gap in there, several talent gaps when you really look at it. He's in the top. He's in the upper echelon for sure. And of course, Lewis coming in kind of doesn't ruin his career, but going to Williams is a very big step back for a driver that could win championships in the right car with the right team. I have no doubt about that. So coming to this season, I had high hopes for him after it was announced before the season even started that Lewis was going to kick him out of his seat. Like, that's crazy that we knew that before the season. He comes out this year. He wins 2 races. He arguably is the reason that Ferrari finished second in the constructors over Red Bull, because he consistently performed and got points. He only didn't get points, I want to say, in 3 or 4 races this year. And one of those was because he had an appendicitis and had to get replaced. And then literally the race after he's replaced, he comes out and wins it in Australia. And so I want the world for Carlos Sainz. I think in my predictions, did I put him at 10th in the Williams car, Jeremiah? Do you remember?
Yes.
I want him to do so well at Williams. I just hope they give him a car that is halfway decent.
So do I. Like you said, I said earlier, Carlos is my guy. And so, yeah, it was when they announced Lewis, I was like, no, because I knew, they're not getting rid of Charles. So, anyway, and then it was really sad to see him end up at Williams, but I'm on the bandwagon now. I'm excited about it. So, how about number 2?
Number 2, Jeremiah had this one as well, but I like how, I think it's in the graphic, Max's masterpiece in Sao Paulo. Look, Red Bull this season did not have the best car. They had the best car for, I think, the first 5 or 6 races of the season, and then other teams start to roll out upgrades around race 6, 7, and 8. And every other team in the top 4 or 5 teams beat Red Bull in upgrades, no doubt about it.
Oh, yeah.
And so with Sao Paulo being in the back half of the season, Red Bull's performance was 4th on the grid, maybe. And for Max to go from 17th or 18th on the grid in the torrential downpour and just pick apart that field like they were nothing, he was full on in, I am going to win this championship and show you that I don't even need the best car to do it. And that's what he did in Sao Paulo. And in the several years we've been watching F1 now, plus going back and watching all of Drive to Survive, plus the historic videos, I've never seen a performance as good as that on track in the hundreds of races that we've watched.
Yeah, it was pretty darn good. I mean, yeah. The only thing that would be better is if he was from 20th, but pretty much was. So,
a pit lane start.
Yeah, a pit lane start. There you go. But yeah, man, he is an amazing driver. All right, let's go to number 1. What do you have?
Number 1 is going to be Lando's first win in Miami. And I've never been really a big Lando fan or McLaren fan. Jeremiah can attest to this. On our show, I've always talked about how Lando just could never crack into that next level of driver. He was so close. He was so close so many times, but he couldn't get the win. And the wins are what matters in Formula One. And kind of like you were talking about earlier with being proud of Charles winning Monaco, I had a similar moment when Lando got his first win this season. It was like he finally did it. He finally
Yep.
made it. He's an F1 race winner. He's locked into McLaren long term. He made a good decision staying with Zach Brown and staying with McLaren. And I think there was the stat, I had it pulled up. This season, before he got his first win, he tied the record for most podium finishes before their first win at 15. That
Jeez.
man had to stand on the podium 15 times before he got to win one.
And
That's really hard to do.
and then he won 4. I mean, yeah.
And fought for a championship, arguably, this season until Max just put
I
his
know.
foot down at the end.
Well, and I was looking at it. Max won, I think, 6 of the first 10 races. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it was just, how do you overcome that? But yeah, the upgrades that the teams brought, and the fact that they finally caught Red Bull, because last season, although it was still amazing to watch, Max go and win, 100 out of 23 races somehow, yeah, it just, this season's been so much fun watching other people win, and just, them finally get caught up to. So, anyway, all right, let's move on to, I guess we'll do mine, shall we? And like I said, I think we're going to see some of the same ones. Of course, number 3, the Sir Lewis holy cow. Sir Lewis Silverstone is what I put on the graphic. He's from Great Britain. He everything about it was just absolutely amazing. Him absolutely weeping on the radio, the steward coming out and handing him the flag, and I'm sure any other driver, any other situation, if a steward had ran out and given somebody a flag, that steward would probably be, fired forever. This guy probably got promoted like to 3 positions up, because that was just an absolutely amazing moment. I hope Lewis kept that flag and has it somewhere. That was absolutely amazing. And then him hugging his dad afterwards, and oh man. Like I said, I can't wait for this season to come out. Can you imagine what Netflix is going to be able to do with that? That was gold, And then, in fact, this one was gold as well, and we've seen it before. Charles in Monaco. The kid literally, if you don't know his story, they told it. The announcers for F1 are amazing as well. The way that an announcer had a full story that he could tell about Charles on his last lap of Monaco, or at least last few turns, about how he, hadn't quite made it to F1, but 11 days or whatever before his dad died, he lied and said he made it and signed a contract, blah, blah, blah. He watched this track be built. And it was just this beautiful monologue as Charles crossed the finish line. And it just was an absolutely amazing moment. And then again, over the radio, the weeping, and it was just amazing. How cool would that be, man? Number one, how cool would it be to have grown up in Monaco? Like, dude, that place.
He's not doing bad for himself.
Yeah, he's doing all right. He's doing all right. So, and then number 1 for me, I have Lando's first win as well. Really, any one of my 3 I could have put in any order, but Lando's win was just so awesome because of, like you said, Thomas, he had stood on the podium 15 times before, and then finally gets his win. And then, and I think actually, didn't Oscar win a sprint before he won a race? So it was like, poor Lando had to just be so frustrated. Like, come on,
This kid comes in his first year and gets a win, and I can't even get that.
Yeah. So anyway, that's let's go to 2025, shall we? What are our predictions for 2025? Jeremiah, we're going to start with you as well in your paused screen, shall we? Sorry.
You're going to have to give me a second here.
No, are you getting text messages and whatnot?
No, I'm trying to find my predictions because I wrote them down.
I can tell you what they are, and then whatever. So,
Okay.
You tell me when you're ready, or I can go to Thomas first. Whatever you want.
No, I've got number 3.
Okay.
That'll be good. We'll start there.
Okay. You're on, man. Go for it.
For 2025, I'm looking at Kimi Antonelli starting out like the rest of the rookies, a little bit rough. You know, he's going to have to get his bearings down with the new car. But I'm telling you right now, by the end of the season, look for him to be challenging George Russell in pace.
Ooh.
I'm calling it.
Okay. Wow. Wow. So is this kid, are you saying, because George is pretty good. I mean, George, I would say, it might be championship material. I mean, depending upon who he's fighting against. You know, if you take Max, Charles, and maybe Lando out, then he's winning. Okay.
And Fernando.
It's a bit of a stretch, I guess. But for a rookie to come, he does well, is what I'm saying. He's a good driver, and you're saying the rookie's going to catch him. Man, that'll be drama for Drive to Survive if we're not pumping show enough.
I'm saying that Toto Wolff's move to pick up Kimi Antonelli was him not wanting to miss another opportunity at a next coming Max Verstappen.
Okay. Well, we shall see. How about number 2? It has to do with Red Bull, if you didn't get to see it. Red Bull finishing.
Oh, yeah. Red Bull's not going to have a good season whatsoever. I see them. What did I have them at? Third?
Third.
At third. I have them at third. More specifically, I have them behind Ferrari and McLaren. I don't see the Red Bull being able to put up the fight in the constructors just like this year, but I think it's going to be more evident at the beginning of the season. This year, we didn't really start to see that tilt until the end of the season. I think right off the bat, they're not going to be able to compete for the first or second spot. And honestly, I think they're going to struggle to hold on to the third spot, personally.
Ooh, wow. Wow. You're saying they might be a middle marker team. Okay, fair enough. And then the number 1 for you, Ferrari. You're saying Ferrari's going to take it. The Lewis move is the right move, huh?
I think the Lewis move is the right move, but it's more than that. Because if I just say that, I'm a bandwagon, right?
Yeah.
I think this is something that Ferrari has been working on for years, and this dates all the way back to 2022 when Leclerc and Max were going back and forth for the first half of the season, but Ferrari just didn't have the car. From little kinks here, the tire degradation, the durability of the actual car itself, it's something that they've had that pace, and they've been sitting on that pace, and they've been waiting to bring that pace back. Their engine, honestly, they probably have the strongest engine out of all of the cars with this new generation of cars. But they haven't been able to use that full throttle because of the durability, because of the tire deg, everything else that they've having to work on. They finally have this car figured out. And I'm telling you, next year, they bring the car, they brought the drivers, and now we're going to see it in 2025.
Well, that would be, I mean, how classic would that be? Ferrari, F1, I mean, they just go together, right? So that's a good prediction. I like it. We shall see. Yeah, I'll be watching. That's for sure. Let's go on to Thomas now. What do you got, brother, for us for number 3?
Sure. So my third one doesn't have anything to do with Jeremiah's, but my first 2 will contradict his greatly. So we'll get into those. Number 3, the Kick Steak Sauber F1. They don't even know what their name is anymore because there's 18 different words in it. They will be pointless in 2025. And I mean that literally and figuratively. They will finish the season with 0 points, and they will have no point of even racing in the season. They have sold to Audi. Audi's coming into the grid in 2026, focusing on the new regulations that happen. Their drivers are lame duck drivers. Who cares? They barely got points this season because of a lot of different DNFs and things happening in whatever the second to last race of the season was. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
That team is, no one should be a Sauber fan right now. I'm sorry. That's really
it's tough being a fan of that team right now. All right. And I can see that too. I mean, I'm not going to argue with that one at all. I think that team is sold out at this point and kind of checked out. So anyway, all right. Number 2.
Here's where we get fun. And I can't wait to see Jeremiah's facial reactions to this. Ferrari will struggle mightily and heavily in the 2025 season. They will not win it all, as Jeremiah predicts they will. I actually have their drivers finishing 5th and 6th in the driver standings in my predictions, and I've got Ferrari, the team, finishing 4th in the constructors. Look, this is an experiment. You've got Charles Leclerc, who is a proven winner, but he does struggle. He gets frustrated. He gets antsy, whatever you want to call it, out on track and makes mistakes. We've seen it year after year. And Lewis is not prime Lewis anymore. I'm glad that he got his wins this year. That was nice, although one of them was a technicality because George Russell cheated. I it's an experiment, and I'm not going to bet on an experiment. I just don't know if it will pay off for Ferrari like Jeremiah thinks it will.
Maybe you guys should have. Well, I guess that wouldn't work. I was going to say you guys should have like a burrito bet or something at COTA, where whoever, if Ferrari is doing well, then you have to buy at the concession stand. If they're not, then anyway.
We'll have to work something out because we
Yeah.
have polar opposite predictions. on
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Mac-
One saying they're winning it all, one saying they're struggling. So
Lewis only got the second win off of a technicality. Oh, kind of like Max's first championship.
ooh, wow,
Ouch, that would hurt.
That's tough. Okay, okay. Moving on. How about number one? What's your number one 2025 prediction?
My number one prediction is the team that will get number one. That's going to be McLaren. I think McLaren has shown consistent and really solid improvement the past 2.5 seasons. They kicked into high gear the past little bit, especially this past season. They stepped it up a notch. Their drivers have both stepped it up as well. We talked about it a couple minutes ago. Both drivers getting their first race wins in 2024. That's going to carry to 2025. We have pretty much the same cars next year. The big regulation change is 26, so 25 is a continuation of these regulations. And if they continue their upwards path of upgrades, improvements, and their driver skill, I think they run away with it. I've got Lando going 1 in the drivers, Oscar going 3, with Max being sandwiched in between. And I think McLaren absolutely runs away with the constructors. I don't think it'll be close.
Wow. Okay, I like it. By the way, Sportniks in our comments says shots fired dissension in turn 1. So you guys, polar opposites on the Ferrari struggles. I like it. McLaren winning it all. I like it. Let's see where I go with this thing, shall we? Like I said before, I think we're going to see some of the same, but maybe some of the different. Number one for me is number 3 for me is I'm saying Williams will surge. Williams, I think what they've got going on with James Vowles is working out. Like that move to put him in as TP is a good one. I think Alex Albon is finally coming along as a driver. I mean, I guess not finally. He has continually improved and continues to do so, and I think their car is improving. Then you add Carlos Sainz, who is, of course, my driver, and yes, I'm biased, but by the mere fact that Carlos won't pile these cars into the wall like Logan Sargent, Franco Colapinto, and anybody else did this year, Williams should pick up quite a few more points and move quite a ways up in the constructors this year. So that's a
good pick.
Yeah,
good pick.
I think that's almost guaranteed. I think they finished 9th this last year.
I can see them finishing 6th.
Yeah, they're going to be a middle marker, and man, I would love to see something crazy like Carlos get a win, but it's going to be tough in that car. Number 2 for me, I'm saying Max is done winning championships altogether. So I know this is 2025 season predictions, but we heard Max say in one of his interviews, they talked about, somebody asked a question about, you've raced this many races and done X, Y, and Z. What do you think about your next that many races? And he flat out said, I ain't going to be around that long. And so as we saw, the other teams are catching up. This next year is a continuation, and Adrian Newey going over to Aston Martin in 2026 with the regulation change. I'm not so sure Red Bull's going to be what they have been. So Max, although I think he's the most talented driver out there right now, I don't think he's going to end up having the car for it anymore. And so I think Max is done winning championships, and then he'll hang it up, because
I,
he's
I sadly have to agree with you, just because I think if he stays in F1 after 2025 depends on how he sees Red Bull doing with the 26 regulation changes. And if he doesn't think that their car is going to perform, he'll leave.
yeah. Yeah, and I mean the guy's about to be a dad. I mean he already is a dad in principle, but about to be a dad, a blood dad, like have his own kid. Um, and he was talking about family and spending time and all these things. His perspective seems to be changing. He's made $1.5 billion or whatever. I don't know how much he's made, but it's a lot more than whatever his contracts pay him, because his sponsorship deals have got to be unbelievable.
Well, what we know about Max the most is that not only does he loves racing, not just Formula One. Formula One was his first goal. Getting the championship was his first goal, and he continued to win, so he was happy where he was. But in all honesty, Max has his eyes set on GT cars, maybe racing in the 24 Hours of Le Mans. He wants to go to sim racing. He wants to go do other forms of racing instead of just he doesn't want to spend Formula One. He doesn't want to spend his entire career of racing just in the sport of Formula One.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. He's definitely got interests elsewhere in his sim racing. I'm all for it, because him and Lando Norris doing their their broadcasts and their clips and whatnot that they put out on the different socials. I love it. I like that brake failure of Max and their endurance race. I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about. His sim racing brake pedal literally fell apart in the middle of this race, and Max Verstappen, without a brake pedal, still managed to get it, I think, to the pits, and they switched drivers, or he just won the thing. I can't remember. But yeah, he's unbelievable at everything he does. And yeah, but I think he's done. I think he'll move on. He's got all the money in the world, and he's got perspective now, I think. So, and then lastly, but firstly, I guess, however you want to say that, Lando is going to be the new drivers' champion, and I will agree. I think McLaren's going to be on top again. I think this is now the transition to, it was Mercedes, then it went Red Bull. I think it's going to be McLaren now, but 2026 is the unknown. So Lando's shot, I think, is this next year, and I'm predicting he's finally going to do it. I don't know if he'll win another one. What does Fernando have? 2, 1? How many does he has? 2? Lando might be a 1-2 champion kind of guy, but I think he can get it done in 2025 if they continue with the car they've got and continue with the upgrades. They're definitely on the right road. So that is my 2025 predictions. So there we go. That's the show, gentlemen. That's all the stuff that I have for us to talk about. What do you guys think? Do you think I'm off on any of this? I guess one of you already agreed, but
I agree with your driver's thing. I think you might be right about the 1 or 2 championship. Max and Lewis both got a little bit lucky with their teams hitting the new era of each car generation at the right time, and them rattling off 4, 5, 6, 7 championships in Lewis's case. 6 with Mercedes. But Lando's is a little bit different because he's on the bubble of a new regulation change, and we haven't seen a driver make that kind of change from being the top driver into the new regulations. So that'll be interesting.
I think if we want to do one 2026 prediction, watch out for Aston Martin, because I think Adrian Newey's just going to be. I mean, look out, man! And I think Fernando's staying for that reason. There we go. I got an agreement on the bottom, because I think Fernando maybe gets another championship. Oh gosh, how cool would that be? Old Fernando, old gray hair.
Adrian Newey and Fernando Alonso in 2026 will be a feared combo.
Oh my gosh, that would be so cool.
And Lance will be in the gravel somewhere.
Yep. Man, I love making Lance Stroll troll videos. That is a favorite pastime of mine. So, and speaking of that, our socials, we've got them out there. You guys have, you're on everything as well. Here's what I do for my show. I create these QR code things, and the idea behind this is if you guys want to go and check out what these guys have got going on, and I highly would encourage you to, because I mean, you guys, yeah, it's fun. Your guys' podcast is great. I love it. Just take a screenshot right here and then go back in your photos later on, put your finger, just hold your finger on any one of those QR codes and it'll take you to that site. So obviously the one next to the YouTube thing, that'll be their YouTube link, Instagram. Do I have to say the other one? TikTok? There it is. So this is your guys' socials. Do you guys have anything you need to talk up or something in the works? Are you already planning the next COTA trip? I do have a question about that, by the way. Do you guys stay in a hotel, and if so, where? Or are you close enough that you just drove back? But tell us what you've got going on first, and then maybe we'll save that question for the after party after the show.
Well, I'll say thanks for putting our socials out there, and we appreciate you helping us plug our channel. We'll try to do the favor and plug Duct Tape Dynasty as well. This is awesome stuff that you're putting out there, and we appreciate the kind words that you said about us. We try to do a video during the season every week. We've been pretty good about that. In the off season, it's about every other week because there's just not that much. We know all the driver moves at this point. There's no races, so it's about every other week. And so if you can subscribe to us, that helps, as well as subscribing to Duct Tape, and it goes to support both of what we're trying to do and just grow our channels and really just spread Formula One, which is, I think all of our goals and everything. I'll say for COTA real quick, we stayed at a hotel because we were down there for 3 days, a little bit far to drive down there every 3 days. Maybe don't stay in the great city of San Antonio, as our vehicle was broken into overnight. Lord. And we had to drive back to where we live with a broken window and the duct tape trash bag window. Well,
see, I mean, look at that. Duct Tape Dynasty. There it is. So, by the way, here's my links if you guys care. Man alive. Okay, so that's a story. I can't wait to hear that one. Guys, I can't thank you enough for coming on. This has been absolutely awesome. This has been fun. I hope we do it again, honestly. I mean, let's do some more shows. I don't know if you guys are into it, but I'm into it. But for now, let's get the heck out of here. Let these guys get to what they're doing and let you guys get to what you're doing. We love y'all. Y'all are the absolute best. Sorry I didn't get to the comment section, but it is what it is. We're a professional operation here. So we'll see you next time.